The WWE Games series features some amazing rosters, some games bigger than others, but over the years they've pretty much featured every big name that is to feature. This will be the first of 3 videos that will focus on the game's rosters. We've got the biggest returns, biggest debuts, as well as biggest losses. As you can see already, the focus on this one will be the biggest returns in this series. So here we go, let's get into it and check out 10 of the biggest superstar returns in WWE Games history. First up, in no particular order, we have got Chyna. So Chyna returned in 2K20, released in late 2019, which was her first appearance since SmackDown 2 on the PlayStation 1, that released way back in the year 2000. So at the point of release, she had been off from this series for a huge 19 years. Now with no 2K21, and with it being unknown if she'll feature in 2K22, there is a chance she'll be added to the list of names that have only featured one time in the modern era. No doubt though, one of, if not the most dominant female superstar ever, both in actual WWE as well as WWE Games, and was a great name to have back in the series. Next up is Brock Lesnar in WWE 12. So Lesnar left the WWE back in 2004 and would therefore be taken away from WWE Games, with his last appearance back then being in the 2003 release of SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. As we know, Brock would eventually return to WWE Games in WWE 12 that released in 2011, which at the time was pretty huge considering he hadn't actually returned to WWE, although that would of course come a few months later that following year. Lesnar would then go on to appear in every game since, most recently in 2K20. So our third and fourth superstars are a tag team. Yes, it is the Hardy Boyz. With their amazing return at WrestleMania 33, it was only a matter of time until they returned to WWE Games. That would of course take place in the game released later that year in 2K18, albeit it would be via DLC in the Enduring Icons pack released in early 2019. Before that though, it had been a long time since they had featured in the series, with Matt Hardy last featuring in SVR 2011 and Jeff Hardy featuring in SVR 2010. This would of course be their first time appearing in a WWE 2K game, with Jeff remaining in the WWE and WWE Games series since, whilst Matt would leave the company again in early 2020, so will not feature in 2K22. The Hardys were not only the huge return in 2K18, as the legendary Kurt Angle also made his huge return to the series, with him returning as that year's pre-order bonus. Prior to that, Angle hadn't appeared in the series since SmackDown vs Raw 2007, so had been gone from the series for about 9 years. Angle has remained on the rosters on a couple of games since, and remains one of the most awesome superstars to play as. Next up, another tag team as the 6th and 7th name on today's list, we have got the Dudley Boyz. Now in terms of tag teams, you really can't get much bigger. Both Bubba Ray and Devon will return in 2K17, after being gone from the series since the original SmackDown vs Raw released in 2004. Now as awesome as it was having the Dudleys back on the roster, it would unfortunately be short-lived as they would not return in 2K18 nor the game since. So if you want to play as the Dudley Boyz in the modern era of WWE games, then 2K17 is the only option. Up next, we have got Hulk Hogan. Now Hogan wouldn't only just make one huge return, but he's actually made a couple. The most recent return took place in 2K20 after a controversial 5-year absence since 2K15. He also had a big return to the main series in 2K14 when he hadn't featured in it since SVR 2007, although he had featured in a couple of side games in between. No doubt one of the biggest legends there is, and a must-have for a true Legends roster. Speaking of legends, how about an active one? Yes, the legendary Rey Mysterio made his own huge return in 2K19 as one of that year's pre-order bonus superstars alongside Ronda Rousey. Before that, he hadn't featured in the series since 2K15, so whilst only a 4-year absence, he does make the list because he's always a fun superstar to play as, and of course one of the most popular superstars ever. Mysterio has gone on to feature in 2K20 and will also feature in 2K22, likely alongside his son Dominic. And last on our list today, our 10th superstar is none other than Bill Goldberg. Whilst Goldberg technically has made a couple of big returns to the series, the one we're focusing on here was his return to the series in WWE 2K14. Much like Lesnar earlier in the video, Goldberg would leave the WWE after WrestleMania 20, with his last appearance at that time being in Here Comes the Pain, so he was gone from the series for roughly a decade. Goldberg would return in 2K14 to feature in his match against Lesnar in the 30 years of WrestleMania mode, although at that time it would only be a one-game deal. Goldberg would then go on to return again in 2K17 and has remained in the series ever since. So that is 10 huge returns we've seen in WWE games. Let me know your thoughts on my list as well as your own list in the comment section down below. Next up, we're going to be featuring the biggest superstar debuts in this series, so also share with me names you think should be featured on that one. As always, stay tuned for more like this coming to the channel soon, and until next time, this has been 101, and I will see you all on the next one.